Kia ora koutou. Welcome to HR Chats with me, Te Radar, where we discuss all things HR with people in the field. For those of you who have listened to other episodes, you'll know what's going on. For those of you who haven't, welcome. And just a reminder, if there is anyone you would like us to talk to or any subject you would like us to talk about, you're more than welcome to contact HRNZ and let us know. Link on the website. Today, we're talking with Sharon Grant. Sharon is the Human Resources Manager for Rangitikei District Council. She's got extensive experience in strategic HR and organisational development. She's held complementary leadership roles in other disciplines, including corporate services, community development, and emergency management. With much of her career in local government, she's also worked in health, education, and consulting, so a very wide base. She's an experienced trainer and facilitator, unsurprisingly, and has recently become a certified Agile practitioner and coach. She is a Chartered Fellow of HRNZ, has served on the HRNZ board where she held the role of National Vice President. She's also a member of HRNZ's Chartering Assessment Panel, which makes her the perfect candidate for today's topic, demystifying the HRNZ chartering application process. Hello, Sharon.
Hello. It's great to be here. Thank you.
It is great to be here. Look, you're in HR, obviously. Funny kind of thing, hearing your sort of bio read out like that. I always find it a little bit weird.
It is. I have to say it was quite a nice introduction. Thank you.
No problem at all. Look, chartering, that is the basis of what we are talking about today. For someone who was new to this or who is a little bit unfamiliar with what chartering is in relation to HRNZ and HR in general, let's go. Let's explain it. What is it?
Yeah, great. Hey, thank you. And look, it's something I'm really excited to be talking about today. And certainly I think chartering is something that I'd encourage every HR professional to aim for at the right time in their career as part of their professional development. And look, essentially, chartering is a way of having your experience and your professional standing formally recognised. And it's a bit like having a big tick next to your name that says, you know what, I've been assessed by a panel of experts. I'm a competent HR professional. I've got, a high level of professional credibility, and I know what I'm talking about.
Now, it sort of seems, if you were in HR, this is exactly the kind of thing you look for in a prospective employee, I would imagine.
Oh, look, absolutely. And I think, for me, looking for a prospective HR employee, if they are chartered, that gives me a very good idea of what they're capable of and what level they've reached in their career. So yeah, it's a little bit like having your CV at the end of your name.
Exactly right. Now, when it's judged by a panel of experts, I imagine that's essentially a jury of your peers have looked at you and your qualification and your application and gone, yep, that seems fair enough. Welcome aboard.
Yeah, correct. So the Chartering Assessment Panel is a group of HR professionals who are chartered members of HRNZ, and they are experienced in assessing applications and assessing candidates.
If I'm sitting here and I'm relatively new to HR, what I think, I've got a bit of time on my hands with these sort of, lockdowns. I might put my application in. How far through my career do I need to be?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think a lockdown is a great opportunity to spend some time on a chartering application. Look, when someone's ready for chartering will vary a bit, just depending on the amount of experience they've had across the HR delivery areas and the amount of HR they have been exposed to. Ideally, I'd expect them to have maybe, a few years at a senior practitioner level, and that's just to ensure that they've actually had the experience and they've led the projects and initiatives that would be required to demonstrate competence within the HR delivery areas. But you know what, that's not always the case, and I'd say if someone looks through the application form and thinks that they've got sufficient experience of leadership in those areas, then give it a go.
Could they, if they, think, oh, do I, don't I, could they, is there something they give HRNZ a call and go, look, this is where I'm at. Can you do a sort of a pre-application application?
Yeah, well, look, definitely talking to other chartered HR professionals is a really good idea, perhaps connecting in with the local branch of HRNZ to get some advice. But also, you know, even with the chartering assessment form, the written application, it's very easy to download it as a Word document and sort of work on it piece by piece. So there's nothing to stop you doing a few sections and sending them off for some feedback from an HR professional.
Right. So with that document you've downloaded, what's the sort of the process you go through? Initially, you think, "Yep, that sounds good to me," and then you probably prevaricate for a while, as we all do. Then you download the document. What happens then?
Yeah. Well, look, so there's a few steps to go through to become a chartered member, and the first part is submitting either a written assessment or a video assessment. So for those candidates that choose to submit a written assessment, that can be done online. The form is available on the HRNZ website. And you know, you can log onto the website, start the form, save the form, and go back to it. So you don't have to do the whole form at once. You can complete the form in bite-sized chunks. What a lot of people choose to do, and probably what I'd recommend, is actually downloading the form as a Word document, and that gives candidates the opportunity to describe their experience across 9 different HR delivery areas. And by downloading the form, it means you can do it sort of one area at a time, and if you choose to, you might send the form to someone else to get some feedback. So that's the written assessment component, and that is then assessed by a panel of 3 members of the chartering assessment panel, and they assess the candidate's competence against the HR delivery areas. If the candidate gets through that stage of the process, they're then invited to attend an interview. Again, it's an interview with a panel of 3 members of the chartering assessment panel. It's a 20-minute interview. It's done via Zoom, so everyone's in a different location, and the interview questions are targeted to assess the candidate against their strategic contribution to a business, their business knowledge, their knowledge and use of HR technology, and also their personal credibility. So after the interview stage, the next stage is reference checking, and that's the final stage in the process. And after reference checking, the candidate will then be informed of the success of their application.
The form itself, you know, I'm thinking, you know, the 9 different categories. Is it a lot of writing? Is it a lot of work? Is it sort of pages?
Well, you know, it's it's a thorough process, but it shouldn't be too complex. And for each of the HR delivery areas, we do ask that there's a word limit of about 250 words, and we do ask that candidates keep to that word limit. And we think that that should be sufficient to adequately describe the examples, while, you know, keeping in mind that we need to be concise in our answers.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned that they could either do it written or via video. They could do a video.
Yes. So there's the opportunity to do a video answering the same questions about the HR delivery areas, and essentially it's like creating a YouTube video of yourself. Just a different way to approach it.
And how many people would choose to do that way? Is there a generational difference between people who choose to do video or people who want to sit down and sort of meticulously detail their career and answers?
So based on my experience on the panel, most people choose to do the written assessment. In fact, I've never assessed a video assessment. So all my experience has been with a written assessment.
Right. I wonder, because there would be quite a difference, I imagine, versus, you know, the written thing you can sit there and sort of mull over, and the video, probably wise then for them to provide a transcript as well as the video, or the video is simply enough should they choose to go down that path?
Oh, look, potentially. Either way, what we encourage is that when candidates are describing their performance against the HR delivery areas, that they're making it really clear about what was the business problem or the opportunity. What was their role in it, you know, and specifically what did they do? We often hear examples of what we did or what the organisation did. We're really interested to hear what the candidate has done. And then the outcome or the impact on the organisation. So that's where I guess HR metrics can come in really handy. So if their initiative has reduced turnover or perhaps increased participation in learning and development, that's a really good way to describe the impact. So yeah, look, I think that could be described in video form if the person prefers to communicate that way.
Yeah. And as you say, they're blowing their own trumpet. They're drawing from their own careers. You're not looking for answers from other people, sort of in the section.
So while it's a thorough process, it's not necessarily complex, because as you say, they are drawing from examples from their own careers, and it's really important that they do sell themselves. The assessment panel usually won't know the person, and they're not going to make assumptions that just because the person's held the role of, for example, HR manager, that they've actually achieved that level of competence. So yeah, it really is an opportunity to sell yourself.
What does a good application look like? What are you looking for?
Well, I tend to think of the chartering application a little bit like a CV in a job application. And you know, we all know as HR professionals that we really appreciate receiving CVs and job applications that are concise, that are easy to read, and where the information that the assessor wants is really easy to find. So yeah, look, I'd say make it as easy as possible for the assessor to find the information that they want and find the answers that they need to assess your competence. So yeah, keep to the 250 word limit is another really good hint, is you know, try and be as concise and articulate as possible in your answers.
And again, I guess for people who are submitting this, you know, before they submit it, they can approach another chartered person and say, look, could you just cast your eye over this? Because, you know, once they've submitted, how many times can they submit? Just repeatedly? Is there a time, you know, if they submit and they're unsuccessful, is it a 6-month wait or a 1 year?
Yeah, so look, if they've submitted their written assessment or their video assessment and it doesn't quite meet the competencies in 1 or 2 HR delivery areas, that the panel will often go back and ask for a little bit more information and invite them to resubmit. If their assessment or if their application overall is unsuccessful, it's not a case of pass or fail, and HRNZ will work with that person to give them some really good feedback to let them know what they need to do to achieve that required level of competence to become chartered, because HRNZ wants all their members to become chartered. And in terms of the timeframes, I guess that just depends on the gap and the size of the gap in those HR delivery areas.
So in many ways, even, you know, an unsuccessful application can be successful in the fact that it will help you highlight areas that you need to strengthen up in, or where you have a weakness.
Absolutely.
So there are 4 compulsory areas that they have to be competent in. Do you want to speak about that?
Yep, sure. So the 4 core areas are resourcing and learning and development, performance management, change management and organisational development, and then employment relations. So candidates for chartering need to be at least competent or advanced in all 4 of those competencies. And then there are also 5 sub-competencies, and candidates for chartering must be at least competent in 1 and at least developing in 2 of those sub-competencies.
Right, and there's no doubt plenty of examples, you know, they can use in their applications around all of those.
Definitely. Look, candidates use a variety of examples. Some of the common ones we hear, if I think about the resourcing, often it's about some significant attraction strategies or talent management strategies, perhaps centred on sort of workforce planning and a big sort of recruitment initiative to solve a particular business problem or opportunity. With organisational change, it's often driven around sort of strategic organisational change initiatives that the person has led and supported. Organisational development, we see examples about leadership development initiatives, and with employment relations, we often see examples about union relationships or collective negotiations.
Just thinking, you know, as you listed those off, actually, you know, through the last 4 or 5 months through the kind of COVID period,
mm,
there's probably been a wealth of people who have really,
mm.
excelled and brought in some unique and innovative solutions that would fit a number
Absolutely.
of these criteria really well.
Yes, definitely. And if I look at initiatives around enabling remote working, enabling remote teams, supporting staff with that change and supporting staff with the transition back to work, yeah, definitely. And I've definitely noticed an increase in applications as well following lockdown. So I think some people may have used that opportunity.
Well, often, it's
Mm,
sometimes things like this can be a little time consuming. We
mm,
see this with various other
mm,
awards and situations like that. It does take a lot of time to sit down and really
mm,
go through this.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, it's a robust process, and I think it should be. There's a certain amount of, I guess, professional prestige that comes with chartering, and it takes a little bit of effort for both the candidate and for the assessors. But that said, as we mentioned, it shouldn't be too complex because that the candidate is drawing on examples from their own career. And the other point to note is it doesn't just have to be the job that they currently hold. We're looking for examples from their whole career.
Marvelous. Is there any sort of, we've spoken in previous podcasts around,
Mm,
I suppose, cultural bias towards putting yourself forward for things like
mhm,
this.
mhm,
Do you notice any sort of, I guess, some people put themselves more forward than others? Is there
mm.
something around the process that maybe some people are put off by because they don't like to, put their hand up and say, hey, I
Yeah.
think I'm pretty awesome?
Yes, yeah. Look, I think it's very clear that some people are more confident selling themselves than others, and I guess that's where the opportunity for the interview and the questions can really draw some examples out from the candidate that they may not have shared as freely in their application.
Also important, I suppose, to choose good referees.
Oh, definitely, definitely. So choose referees that can confirm the examples and the HR delivery areas that are in the application, and also make sure the referees know that they're your referees.
This is it's kind of HR 101, isn't it? This is
Yeah,
all of the
it
things you
is.
would expect someone who is writing a good CV
Oh,
to do.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. It's sort of, if you
Mm,
can't get that right, it's you
mm,
pretty
mm.
much it. What are the benefits? I go through all of this.
Yeah, look, the benefits of chartering, I mean, it's sort of what I talked about in the beginning. Your career's been professionally recognised, and those few little letters that you can use after your name really tell everyone else that you have been assessed as being a competent HR professional who has high professional credibility.
Do you get a certificate or a badge?
Oh yes, of course. You get a certificate, and you have letters that you're able to use after your name. Hmm.
Great. God, well, if I was in HR, I'd be cracking into this straight away.
And I use them proudly.
Look, and rightly so,
Mm,
because
mm,
when you're in a sector and
mm,
you are achieving at a level that your
mm,
peers go, this is exactly what we're after. Why
mm,
not,
mm,
put that there?
mm,
It provides you with credentials.
mm,
What about above this? For those people who are chartered, is there anything
mhm.
above this, or is that really their own personal development that comes there?
So there is the opportunity to become a chartered fellow, and that's sort of the next step after becoming chartered. And that's really about demonstrating that you've given back to the sector by involvement. Perhaps it might be being a human HRNZ mentor, perhaps being part of the chartering assessment panel, maybe participating on the HRNZ board, just demonstrating that you're giving back to the profession in some way. And chartering also brings with it the opportunity to do continuing professional development, CPD. So it is about continuous learning.
Are they joining a large body of people? How many people are chartered?
Yeah, look, it's growing. We've got about just over 300 members now that are chartered, but yeah, definitely growing, and hopefully it will grow more.
Look, I can guarantee it will. I can almost hear in the distance the sound of fingers tapping on a keyboard, downloading that document to fill it out over the next little while. Anything else you'd like to add?
Oh, look, all I'd say is I think, if you're considering chartering, do it. make a start. Have a look at the form and have a look at the HR delivery areas, and just make a start on it. You know, download the form and just start plugging away at your application in bite-sized chunks. Get some feedback. Have a chat to some other HR professionals, and yeah, just do it.
I guarantee there are people listening to this who know someone who should be applying for this as well. It's also, if you are in the field, just maybe having a chat to someone and saying, hey, look, you know, have you considered doing this?
Absolutely. Encourage your colleagues, encourage other people to get chartered. There's no limit on the number of people that we're able to award chartering to, and the more the better. You know, it's great for the profession, the more people we can get chartered.
The more the merrier on this. I was going to make some joke about chartering their way to success, but no, you know, it is. There's no. I think there's nothing better than being validated by your peers to say you've reached a level. You know, continue on, become even better. Well, thanks to Sharon Grant, who took the time out to talk to us on HR Chats around the nature of demystifying the HRNZ chartering application process. I tell you what, I think it's thoroughly demystified. If there is anything else you find mystifying in the HR sector, any people you would like us to talk to about anything, feel free to contact HRNZ and we'll see if we can line those people or those topics up. For now, that's all on HR Chats with me, Tarada. Take care.